So, welcome everybody to today's webinar, The Intersection of Resilience, Personality, and Skills in Tech. My name is Justin, and I'll be your host for today. I'm very excited to welcome you guys to our last webinar for 2023. Before we get started, I've got a couple of quick housekeeping things to get through. So, today's webinar is being recorded. So, if you can't make it to the end, or if you'd like to share this with your colleagues or rewatch it, we will be providing that recording link to you guys by the end of this week, most likely tomorrow. So keep an eye out on your inbox for that one. Second of all, there will be time for a Q&A session. So if you have any questions for our panelists throughout today's discussion that you'd like to fire in, you can do so in the Q&A section on the bottom of your screen. And we'll save some time at the end of today's webinar to get to them. You can put them in there at any time, so don't feel like you need to wait, but I'll give you guys a bit of a reminder later on in the session. And yeah, last but not least, I think it might be a good idea to introduce our panelists. Sorry, it's late here in Poland. So I might start with you, Paige. Thank you very much for joining us today. Can you give us a few words about yourself?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you all about the intersection of personality and tech skills. My name is Paige Brown. I'm a consultant at Hogan Assessment on the Solutions Partner team. So we basically work with other consultants that integrate the Hogan assessments into their existing consulting services to their end client. I have a background in industrial organizational psychology, which is basically the science of working in fancy words. And then I'm currently based out of Colorado Springs. So thanks for making this over lunchtime. Very nice.
No worries. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for joining us. Kuba, can you give us a few words about yourself, please?
Yeah, so I'm way over lunch right now. I'm a founder and CEO at DevSkiller, and my background is in IT. So I'm a software developer by heart. And for many years, I was involved in recruitment, mostly for tech roles, but not only. So yeah, I will be happy to share my experience around how to find those talents and how to retain them in the organization.
Thank you very much. We've got a very exciting discussion planned for today. I remembered my lunchtime brain switched back on. I wanted to mention that this webinar today is in partnership with Hogan Assessments. We're very happy to be doing this together. So I'd like to get started with a quick poll, which will be appearing on your screen now. So the question is, which resilience trait is most crucial for tech professionals? Adaptability, perseverance, problem solving, stress tolerance, emotional intelligence, optimism, learning agility, or other. We've got a few polls planned for today. So basically we want you guys to get involved as best as you can. We'll be commenting on them as well. And yeah, basically I'll let the votes roll through. I can only see about less than half of you guys have voted. So if you're listening in, just drop a vote for us, please. And then we will talk about them in a moment. I'll share them so you can see them on your screen. A couple more. I'll give it 10 more seconds. Okay. I think we're done. I'm going to end the poll, share the results. So which resilient trait is most crucial for tech professionals? In first place, we had problem solving with 40%. We also got votes for adaptability, perseverance, stress tolerance, and learning agility, which leads me to my first question for you, Paige. So how can resilience traits amongst tech professionals be measured effectively?
Yeah, I think a good point to start off with defining what we mean by resilience. So to me, resilient is responding adaptively. So glad that was in one of the top answers to changes, challenges, and just the complexity of the workplace. Essentially, it helps you get back up stronger after meeting life's hurdles, disappointments, and failures. So to measure it effectively, I think you can do it in multiple ways, different approaches and tools. First, I think you could do just a simple survey or questionnaire, tailor it specifically to assess resilience traits. I'd ask things about their ability to adapt and change. How do they handle stress? And how have they bounced back from setbacks in their history? Second, I might sit these tech professionals down and just conduct a structured interview to explore some of their past experiences in dealing with challenges and setbacks. Even something like a situational judgment test that simulates real-world scenarios could be useful in measuring how they respond to stress and uncertainty. And then also look at the performance metrics over time. Someone who consistently performs well under pressure and adapts to changing circumstances is probably a fairly resilient individual. So how well do they perform under stress, and how do they handle the unexpected? Now, of course, I'm coming from Hogan Assessments, and our thing is personality assessments. So I will mention that, of course. Our assessments were developed specifically to predict performance in the workplace using 3 assessments. So we have the HPI, the Hogan Personality Inventory. This measures how individuals handle stress, interact with others, how they approach work tasks, and how do they solve problems. And then our second one, the HDS, the Hogan Development Survey. This measures the behaviors that emerge during times of stress, boredom, complacency. When things get tough, how are these people going to react? And then finally, the MVPI, the Motives, Values, Preferences Inventory. This measures a person's goals and interests that determine satisfaction. It drives their careers. It tells you what they're going to be most interested in doing. So I think those personality assessments are a good place to start, but they don't tell you how someone is actually acting and performing in the real world at a specific point in time. It's going to tell you your natural tendencies, how resilient you're likely to be, but actually measure how someone is being and coming across in the real world. I would check out a 360 assessment so you can gather information from their colleagues, their peers, their direct reports, their managers, and really ask specific questions around resilient behaviors to measure that.
Awesome. Thanks for the insights there. I might shift gears and go towards you, Yuka, obviously having a background in tech yourself, and being involved in that for some time. Question here I've got for you is, what are the key personality traits that predict success in tech roles?
Yeah, so beyond what was mentioned by Paige, so like basically resilience and stress management, which is extremely important, because like even if we have like a fancy culture in the company, the stress is always there. If we work in sprints, then like the closer to the end of the sprint, the more stress we get. And of course, having a continuous pace of work during the whole, let's say, week, month, and year is very important. And like without good stress management, we have a roller coaster. When we are extremely a good performer, and then we are down with what we can do. So I would say that that's the, let's say, the meta trait that helps you to like use everything else. The second one is that in tech, to resolve any problems that you have, you really need to have analytical thinking. So you need to think and analyze the problem, slice it to smaller problems, and then try to resolve that. And without this analytical thinking skills, it's extremely hard to resolve problems and not get bored, etc. The next thing that is pretty close to this analytical thinking, and I believe it's still very important, is curiosity. So often when you have some let's say problems to resolve, if you are just treating as a job and I need to do that, you won't be effective. I know that in my career, many times I was sitting, until, I don't know, 3 a.m. because I needed to nail down this problem that I have. And only after resolving it, I would say, yes, right now I'm finished and I can go to sleep. But even when, trying to sleep, I was analyzing still why it happened, what was wrong, etc. So you really need to be curious. So that's the next thing. Second thing that is still close to that is attention to detail. I'm not saying that you should be a perfectionist and you need to polish everything that is possible to polish. But it's more like in IT, often putting a semicolon in the wrong place is changing the whole logic of the system. Putting bracket in the wrong line, it changes the whole algorithm. So you need to have this attention to detail to catch such things and figure out that, for example, you're reading a documentation, and in this documentation there is some hint like, hey, be aware that in this case it will work like, differently. So you need to catch such things, otherwise it can lead to very, very like serious problems. And we can read about problems or most critical fails in IT, and often it was like something very, very small. If we think about Ariane, so the rocket that was launched and that was destroyed by one using the wrong float type, or Terran, I believe that was the name, when many people died from cancer treatment because the guy forgot to put one instruction to block it, and it was freezing with killing people. That was the lack of attention to detail, and that is very, very important. The next thing is that of course in tech, the skills and technologies are changing all the time. So the technologies that we use today, they were not existing 5 years ago, and in 5 years we won't be using the technologies that we use today. So long life learning and learning agility is the second trait that I believe is very, very important, because that's something that allows you to adapt. And this adaptability, and Paige mentioned, also extremely important, because today we use this technology, tomorrow we'll move to different cloud provider because we'll get a great business offer from them, and we need to be very lean in this approach. And last but not least, today in tech, it's not enough to be an expert in tech and be a black box that give me the problem, I will give you the solution. Because we always work in teams. I remember that when we were starting working on DevSkiller, approach to full stack developers, so people who were developing front end and back end, was pretty common. Today, it's extremely hard to find a full stack developer, because back end and front end are so complex that you really need to choose and you really need to specialize. So teamwork is extremely important. And if I talk about teamwork, of course, all of the communication skills, etc. This is crucial if you want to work in a team that is bigger than one person, which is a must for today technical teams. So that's how I see that.
Yeah, definitely. Not to mention the cross collaboration between teams as well with tech professionals. I can speak from my experience in marketing, which is we're working with developers on a daily basis, basically. I also wanted to mention one thing you said there about sort of continuous learning and this trait as well, which is we're going to have a little bit more in our webinar a little bit later in the discussion about that. So stick around for that. So thanks very much for that, Kuba. I may launch another poll here, which is going to open up our next question. So let me just get this poll here, which should be appearing on your screen now. The question is, what's the best balance between personality traits and tech skills for success in the tech industry? And we've got a few responses here. Primarily tech skills with some personality traits, equal emphasis on tech skills and personality traits, tech skills enhanced by strong personality traits as a foundation, an adaptable mix depending on the role or other. Kuba, I'm going to point the next questions to you. So even though you can't answer this, I'm sure we're going to get your opinion on this one anyway. But we will let it run for a little while. I can see most of you have voted, but there's still a few of you to go through. So yeah, I'll give it a few moments. There's one more. Okay. Thank you everyone for voting. The results should be on your screen now. And the top result with 36% was an adaptable mix depending on the role. However, we got equal votes as well for personality traits as the foundation, supported by tech skills, and finally equal emphasis on tech skills and personality traits. So a bit of a mixed bag with this one. So thanks everybody for voting on that. So the question here, Kuba, is a little bit sort of wider, talking about organizations. So how can organizations balance tech skills and personality traits in their recruitment processes? This is something you've obviously done a lot of over your career hiring developers. So
Yeah. So the first thing, like, like the adaptable mix, depending on the role, is like, very safe answer, but it's true. Like, there are some roles in the organization that are extremely like technological. If we talk about like, I don't know, banks that run the HFT solutions, like really like to develop such a low code that is extremely fast, well performing, etc. You really need to be like, extremely good in like, understanding the machines, understanding how the bits flow, how like, the electricity flows in the computer. So it's mostly about the technical skills, because without these technical skills, you can have great like, personal skills, but you won't be able to like nail it down, right? If we are talking about artists, right? If we are talking about the painter, like and someone who is like doing like portraits, right? You really need to have good skills, because otherwise you can be extremely funny, great at collaboration, but as long as you cannot like do this fancy stuff, you are almost useless, right? If we talk about the painters that need to paint like walls in the building, then of course like cooperation is becoming more important, because like painting walls, it's much easier than painting portraits, and the same applies for technology. And usually in many projects, or in vast majority of projects, we are not painting like fancy portraits or whatever. We are painting walls. So normally I would say that like people without good tech skills, they are like basically not delivering the job, right? They're not doing their job. But without the soft skills, it works as well. So I see it in this approach. Like, if we are talking about the like let's say which skills are important, like tech skills are if you know how to resolve the problems. Soft skills are if you know what is the problem, how you should approach this problem, and why this problem should be resolved. And if we talk about the recruitment, then of course, like the most important thing is like good job advertisement. When you say, hey, we need people with such skills and such soft skills. Soft skills should be listed as well. I used to have people in my career where they say, yeah, I'm a black box, I'm a single like player, I'm one man army, etc. It's great, but these are not the people that will be great for working in the team. Beyond the job ad, the very important thing is structured interview. So I believe that having, if we talk about a face-to-face interview, not the pre-assessment, if we talk about that, like having done, let's say, separate interviews for soft skills and hard skills, it's not a good idea, because like, on the job interview, I'm playing. I'm trying to like, pretend that I'm great, I'm like cool, etc. But during a technical assessment, we can simulate many situations that will like, occur on the daily basis, right? So we can say, okay, you said that you use this technology, why you choose this technology, and then candidate is like, explaining why. Say, I believe it's a like wrong decision. Like I would never do it that way. And you see how this person reacts. If this person starts fighting with you or starts to understand why you believe it's a bad idea, and then if you have like, let's say, two senior engineers and one HR person, so the recruiter, on the same interview, then this recruiter can really like read how this person behaves and how this person reacts during the technical discussion, right? When you ask the question that that the candidate will not know the answer, right? How the candidate will react. Will the candidate say, hey, I don't know, that's the first time when I hear about that, or will say, yeah, I use it, yeah, and we'll like try to like create a fake reality. So that's the thing. So I believe this structured interview is the crucial thing. And I used to work with very good recruiters during my like career, and they were really like saying, okay, this person is pretty good, I've seen technically, but this will be the problem with this person, that will be the problem with this person, and they were able to read it like in a book. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that you can be close to perfection on the job interview, but you will never be perfect. So the trial period is the second thing, right? So, on the job interview, we are always like playing. Even if we believe we are not, we are always playing. But if we have a trial period last for 3 months, you won't be able to some people can, but basically we are not playing during these 3 months. So that's something that we really need to evaluate people after the trial period and be ready to say no, like you don't match this company culture, approach, etc., values. So we believe that we should close the cooperation. And also in my career, it used to happen to me that when after 2 weeks I say, it makes no sense. Like let's stop here, because otherwise it will be a lose-lose instead of win-win strategy. And last but not least, even if we hire right people, if they work in a team and after the trial period we say yes, that was a good decision, people have different problems during their life. They are in different situations, so definitely continuous feedback. When I say, hey Justin, something that you said to me yesterday, it wasn't right, or something you did, it wasn't cool, and that's how I feel about that. So the feedback and continuous improvement, it's very, very important thing, because even if we hire someone with the right attitude, this attitude can change. I know that personality is not changing often, at least, but attitude can change. I don't know, my kid is sick, so I'm starting to work differently. I just start to care about different things. So then feedback and continuous improvement is extremely important to be effective in the long run.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope I didn't open up too deep of a can of worms for you for all those years hiring developers for countless interviews. But thanks for that answer there, Kuba. I'll bring it back over to you, Paige. And we're talking about the mixture of all of these sort of these areas together. So the intersection of resilience, personality, and tech and skills in tech. So question here is, how do resilience, personality, and technical skills together predict the long-term success and tenure of an employee in the tech industry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important to think about the tech industry existing in the state of being VUCA, so volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. It's highly demanding, it's unpredictable, it's very competitive, right? So every organization, even beyond tech industry, is going to face a crisis at some point. But even without a crisis, organizations have to have resilient leaders. In fact, typically, the legacy of a leader is going to be determined by how they handle and respond to a crisis. So maybe just to give an example of the volatile state of the tech industry, it's known for its fast-paced and ever-evolving nature. Technology advancements, market trends, consumer preferences, all these things can change rapidly, right? Leading to this volatile business environment. So if we go back to the HPI, a high score on adjustment, this person is likely to remain cool, calm, collected in these stressful situations. They'll probably be a guiding force for their team and set a good example. If a leader in a stressful situation is freaking out and panicking, what do you think their team's going to do? They'll also panic. Work's not going to get done, and it'll be hard for them to remain competitive in the tech industry. So yes, hiring based on both tech and personality skills is important. You can hire someone who has the best skills in the industry, and that's really great. But if they don't have the leadership skills, the interpersonal skills to get along with people, lead them, professionally develop their employees, they're probably not going to be leading a very effective team, and it's probably going to be a bigger issue in the long run.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kuba. What about you? Obviously, having been in leadership positions in tech, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, so I agree with what Paige mentioned. I believe that, it's also important to understand that not all people can be leaders. So we really need to choose like let's say the career path for particular people. And recently I joined a conference organized by Intel. It was like Future Skills Forum. And one of the keynote speakers, he was mentioning the situation from his career when he had like extremely good engineer person who was like so fluent in algorithms that he was great. But unfortunately, with a lack of communication skills and leadership skills, it basically stopped his career. He wasn't able to advance and go to more senior positions because he wasn't able to communicate correctly. Then someone mentioned, from the audience that, it happens, but then it means this person should stay as a good engineer because he is not someone who can lead projects, etc. So I believe it's important to understand who can be promoted. And there is like a joke that is not a joke in the tech industry, that if you promote a good engineer to a manager position, then you lose a good engineer and you gain a weak manager, right? And that's often true. So I believe the most important thing is to know what traits do people have, right? So if you have great engineer, maybe this person wants to stay as a good engineer. Maybe that's not the person who wants to be a CTO in the future. And otherwise, you can have people who have weaker technical skills, but their leadership skills, their resilience skills are so great that they're great as a CTO to lead the team that is much smarter than them, and they will be okay with that. There are people who are okay with hiring people that are better than them, and there are people who are very afraid of that. So if you put a person who is afraid of hiring better people as a CTO, then the quality of the company will start to degrade, right? So that's not what we want to have. So yeah, I would say that really you need to know your employees, you need to know the people, and do not expect from someone who is extremely introvert that this person will go on stage and say, yeah, let's go, let's do that, let's build the future. That's not what they are going to do. And if they will try, they will be so unauthentic in that no one will believe them.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to keep in mind that, when we're measuring personality, we're measuring natural tendencies. So some people could, with development and coaching, learn how to be a good leader. Maybe they're not naturally, especially if it's their first time being in a leadership position. But I think it's certainly possible to develop those skills, step up to the plate and be a good manager while also having the technical skills. Of course, not everyone is going to be interested in doing that or able to, but I think it's definitely a possibility for some.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Kobe, you talked about people from the perspective of that's not necessarily cut out to be a leader, or this is not in their interest for them. But Paige, maybe you could elaborate a little bit further about some tips for how organizations can further develop these resilience and other beneficial personality traits in tech specifically.
Yeah. I mean, there's coaches all over the world, and I certainly know quite a few of them working with consultants who are integrating our assessments. But they will take a look at people's life experience. Where have they been? Where do they want to be? What job experiences have worked out and what maybe hasn't? What from their personality profile, serves as a strength in this industry and this job that they want to be in? And then what are some development opportunities? Everyone on their profile is going to have both strengths and weaknesses. There's going to be things that your coach could help you identify to keep doing, to stop doing, and then to start doing. So having a really good coach that's familiar with the tech industry specifically, and then also whatever personality assessment you're using, I think would be really beneficial to developing skills and just an ongoing coaching program as they learn to adapt.
Awesome. Cool. Anything you want to add on here from your perspective? We're good to keep going. Okay, so we'll do just that. So we do have a few questions here, and I've got one more poll which I'm about to launch in a moment. As I mentioned at the top, if you have any questions you'd like to ask in an open forum at the end of today's discussion. You can find them in that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. But we're going to shift the conversation now a little bit towards what we mentioned earlier. Kuba actually made a point of it before about continuous learning and reskilling. Obviously, this is something that's very topical and very relevant for us here at DevSkiller. So I will launch this final poll. Just let me get it here. And it should appear on your screen now. Question here is, how important is continuous learning and reskilling for career advancement in tech? First vote got 100% straight away. Absolutely essential, very important, but not the only factor. Moderately important, slightly important, not important. I apologize for reading them out live, but for whatever reason on the recordings, when people rewatch this, you can't see the polls, so we have to read them out live. That's why I'm doing that. But there is a somewhat resounding winner so far, but I can see a little bit over half of you have voted, so I'll let it run a little bit longer. And I think we're just about done, so I'll end the poll here. Share the results. So to no surprise, you see that on the screen now. Absolutely essential. The only other votes we got was for very important, but not the only factor. But I think we are not exactly breaking the wheel there. I will shift it back over to you, Kuba. You actually touched on this earlier, but I wanted to see if you could elaborate a bit on this. So what role does continuous learning and reskilling play in career development and employee retention in the tech industry?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the technologies in tech are changing all the time. So definitely, without this learning agility and lifelong learning, you won't be able to succeed in the tech industry unless for longer than 1-2 years. So that's the problem. The case is that some people, when they join some company, let's say it's a bank, right? They join this bank and they stop learning because they are developing the software that was created 10 years ago and will work for the next 20 years. They work with this old legacy system, they stop learning. And then the problem is that when they are fired from this company because the company is moving to different technologies, bought some core banking system, from the shelf, etc. They are, it's extremely hard for them to find a job. And I used to have many such people on the interviews, and the problem is that often they have few kids, they have very, very good salary, and they know less than juniors. For me, for example, so that's the problem, because you say, okay, so you are earning X amount of money, and I can give you 30% of that if you agree to learn a lot in the next 6 months or something it is. And most of them, I would say 95%, were not accepting such an offer. But I've seen on LinkedIn that they were staying inactive. So I hope that they start learning very, very quickly. And that's the case. That if you want to be attractive on the market, you really need to learn. Otherwise, you will be screwed in the long run. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that reskilling is important because often in IT especially, but that's when most of my experience comes in, people are getting a burnout because of the stress, because of all this volatile state that Paige mentioned. So people are very, very tired with the job they are doing. They're saying, okay, I'm doing this backend development for 20 years. I'm not able to keep it anymore, especially that the technologies are changing over the time. So if you are, let's say, 4-year-old, you have 2 kids, you have home, you want to rest, you are competing with guys who are having 25-year-old. They can learn all the time because they have nothing else to do. And it's very, very hard to keep the pace they are doing. So often these people are changing to more demanding roles, but it requires reskilling. And then being aware of where you should reskill, in which direction you should reskill, knowing your trades, which skills you lack, but you can develop them, which skills you lack, and that you won't be able to learn them quickly due to some like I don't know traits that you don't have, etc. So that's very, very important. So I would say like lifelong learning, yes, it's crucial for tech roles and reskilling as well, especially that we know that one of the most important factors that keep people in the company is like ability to grow, ability to learn. If the company is not like giving people space to grow inside the company, they will just change the job, especially this like most important for us. So the best ones, like top talents, want to learn. They want to continuously grow, continuously learn. So if you are not giving them this opportunity, they will leave. And people who will stay, these people who are not necessarily the one that you want to retain. These are just like the average people, maybe low performance. So yeah, that's how I see that, and that's why I see it's important.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate the answer. I know you've been doing the conference circuit, to speaking a lot about reskilling on the matter. So this is something close to your heart. Paige, what's your perspective on this? Maybe like from a personality perspective, is this something that you can sort of notice quickly in people, or like what role do you think it plays from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I would take a look at some specific scales. So something like ambition. Do they care to set ambitious, shoot for the stars type goals? Do they want to keep working their way up through the organization? Or are they okay being an independent contributor and kind of just keep doing what they're doing? And that's okay too sometimes. I might also look at something like learning approach from our HPI. So how does this person prefer to approach learning? Someone at the higher end might prefer more traditional learning, so maybe going and getting a certification, sitting in lectures, watching webinars, things like that, versus someone who scores lower may be interested more so in the hands-on learning. So they want to get in and do it. They maybe want to shadow someone, see how they are learning a new skill, and then actually apply that. Um, for the leaders, I might look at something like altruism on our MVPI. So how do they want to give back to their team? Or are they going to just show them how to do it and do it themselves? And their employee doesn't really learn from that because they don't get the chance to hands-on learn. Versus a lower altruistic score, they're more likely to teach the person so then they can go forth and do it themselves. The value on self-reliance. There's a few different places we can look to see how someone prefers to learn, how far they want to advance. Are they interested in being innovative and learning new technologies? Or are they happy with sticking what they already know?
Awesome. Thank you very much for both of your answers there. We actually are at our final question here, so I might stay with you, Paige, actually, when we're looking forward here. The final question here is: what do you foresee becoming increasingly important for developers in the future to align in terms of resilience, personality, and skills?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about adaptability and continuous learning, so I won't touch any more on that, I think, but cross-functional collaboration, I think that would be important. So having strong interpersonal relationships on the team, working within the team and then across teams is going to be essential for successful collaboration. Developers with the ability to communicate effectively and work well in diverse teams is going to be a need that's in high demand. I would also think about problem solving and critical thinking. So these are personality traits that align strongly with, specifically executive problem solving. So developers who can analyze very complex issues and devise innovative solutions, a lot of value there. Ethical decision making, this is one I'm pretty passionate about. I'm on an ethics committee with my organization. So having ethical awareness and a commitment to making ethical decisions is going to be very important. We can see that in some personality scales, if someone's going to be more risk-taking and push the limits, or if they're going to follow the rules or make up their own rules, kind of dance to the beat of their own drum. So that's going to be pretty important. And then emotional intelligence. I noticed that one did not get any votes on that first poll, but that's okay. Developers need emotional intelligence too, and it's maybe something that gets forgotten about. But if they have the self-awareness, the empathy, they'll be able to contribute positively to their team culture. They'll be able to collaborate with others, and other people will probably look at them as a guiding force and someone who they're interested in actually working with. If they're easy to talk to, interested in hearing about their day, how they're feeling, if they notice when their employees are stressed out and burn out, how can they mitigate that? And then maybe some final thoughts on the hot topic of the year, AI. We're not personally too concerned about it, just because on personality assessments, there's no right or wrong answers. There's not exactly an ideal profile. It depends on the context of the job, the organization, the industry that you're looking at. And practically speaking, it's very time consuming to use something like ChatGPT to copy and paste all 300 of our questions into ChatGPT and then try to figure out what a desirable profile would look like. Plus, we have algorithms that can detect ChatGPT use. So really not an efficient use of anyone's time. But we're always going to need humans with science, and AI needs science.
Yeah, well put. Thank you. There's a couple of very interesting things you talked about there. Cross-functional, the skill of sort of cross-functional and relationship building is something we did an entire series of a couple of years ago at DevSkiller about. It says something about this, the communication between other departments is certainly true even to this day. So thank you for that, and yeah, for the final thoughts there. Cool. What about you? What's your opinion on the topic here?
Yeah, so like piggybacking on the AI that was mentioned by Paige, I believe that and how AI is changing the world right now is that personality is becoming more and more important nowadays, because anyone can, almost anyone can use AI. To try to get answers to technical problems, right? Right now, we don't need to think about how to implement some simple algorithm because AI can do it for us. What's important is not if you can use technology just as using the technology, but if you can use technology to resolve business problems, real world problems, right? So right now, the more and more important is communication. So if I can understand what I need to resolve, why I need to resolve this problem, if I can optimize the business process, because often the business side in the tech industry is asking for what they want, but it's not necessarily something they need, right? And the good soft skills, the good personality is something that allows you to play the game with them and understand what they really need and then resolve that. ChatGPT is not going to do it for you, right? ChatGPT is not going to interview Justin and understand why you need to change something on our pricing page, right? Because you say, okay, I need this one. I say, no, you want this one, but they tell me what you need. So analyzing the requirements and good analytical skills, communication skills, is becoming more and more important because I can delegate more and more technical stuff to AI. I can use machine learning to analyze data sets. So I don't need to be expert in data analysis because there are algorithms and tools that can do it for me. But driving conclusions out of that and changing the business based on this data, it's something that is extremely important. So I would say yes, that let's say soft skills, personality skills are becoming more and more important because technology is becoming more and more advanced and is doing more stuff for us. So that's my view on that.
Yeah, thank you. Working with AI, not a side by side, right? So this is the final plan question we've got actually here, but I can see that there's one question in the Q&A, so I'm just going to click answer live. And if there are any more questions, feel free to drop them in. This one's here written for you, Jakob. So Jakob, you mentioned the job description before. So what tips do you have for crafting a job description to maximize role fit?
Yeah, so we have some I believe blog post or webinar about the job descriptions. But yeah, the first thing is like be honest in the job ads and do not craft like some fake reality just to like highlight that it's so great a project, etc. If you're looking someone for legacy project, then don't like craft the job ad as it will be some greenfield like technological edge project, because the people who like be attracted with the job ad, it's not the people that you want to find, right? There are people who prefer to work to play with puzzles, and there are people who prefer to play with bricks, right? Puzzles means that there is something that I know that I'm creating, and the final like image is okay. And these are mostly people who will be efficient in maintenance. And people who prefer to work with Lego, play with Lego, they are building something from scratch and they don't know what will be the final version. They are usually better for development. So be honest about what you are looking for. Also, a very important thing is that when we have the list of skills in the job ad, be really precise about which skills are core and which are nice to have. Usually people are saying, okay, let's put everything into core skills or must-have skills, because then we'll get better candidates. No, the candidate pool is exactly the same. The question is if you will attract which part of this set you will attract. So really be honest, like which skills are crucial and what's the, let's say, learning curve for the skills. If I have a technology that I know that it's a library and I can teach someone in 5 days how to use this library, I won't put this library as a core skill, because I know that I can really easily teach someone and test, parallel with that, what's the learning agility for this person. Because if someone during the trial period cannot learn this, library in 5 days, that's red light for me, or at least yellow card that, okay, so the learning agility for this person is not what I expect. So be honest about that, and also remember about the core skills, soft skills. Sorry, if you know that, working closely with marketing team, with sales team, with customers is important, put it in the job description. So say, hey, in our company, developers are working closely with customers. They are joining product demos for customers. They are often joining the pre-sales calls with the customers. So that's why we are looking for people with good communication skills, with good, foreign languages skills, because we work with customers from Latin America, whatever. And that's what you need to do. So really be honest and be descriptive, and do not try to bend the reality to get better candidates, because that's not how it works. So I hope it answered.
Yep, thank you. And I believe we don't have any more questions in there. So we have a bit of time left, so that's always a good thing. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining today's webinar, the intersection of resilience, personality, and skills in tech. I'd like to say a special thanks to Hogan Assessments, who've partnered up with us for today's webinar, and a big thanks to you, Jakob, and you, Paige, for sharing those insights with everyone today. As I mentioned at the top, we will be sending a recording to you guys by the end of this week. So keep an eye out on your inbox for that. Otherwise, thanks again for joining. Happy holidays. We'll see you next year for our next webinar, because we're already at the end of 2023, if you can believe it. So thanks very much, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.